Okay, we've returned from executive session. Executive session is one of those times when council can meet privately, usually only on certain issues such as litigation support, attorney-client privilege, personnel matters. So, do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Okay, so we're back in our regular session. Thank you for your patience. It's an issue that we had to handle fairly early today.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes, if I may, I'd like to make a motion that we move an item up in the agenda. It is something we should accommodate the folks that are here to hear their issues, and that is the purchase of the item number 11-2, purchase of vehicles by the Franklin Somerset First Aid Squad.
Okay, so the motion is to move item 10-2, purchase of vehicles, ambulances, Franklin Somerset First Aid Squad, to immediately, now between items 5 and 6 basically on the agenda, and then move on with the agenda. Is there a second for that?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Okay, so we're going to do this one item now, and then go back to the agenda in a couple minutes. So as an overview, Mr. Warlock, you want to give us?
I can certainly give you an overview, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Overview, I should say. At the November meeting of the Emergency Life Support Committee meeting, the ELS committee was presented with a request by the Franklin Somerset First Aid Squad to purchase 2 of the older ambulances that are owned by the Township, I believe a 97 and a 98. 96, I'm sorry, that the Township had purchased new, well, I guess, 17 years ago now, 16 years ago. They had been told to get appraisals on the ambulances to report back to the ELS committee in November. The First Aid Squad did, in fact, do that. 2 appraisals were done. One valued the 2 ambulances in total at $4,500, and one valued them as a total of $4,000. It was the unanimous recommendation of the ELS committee to sell the ambulances to the First Aid Squad for a price not to exceed $4,000, which was the lower of the 2 appraisals. The primary benefit to the Township in this particular case is that in purchasing the ambulances from the Township, the First Aid Squad is going to assume the responsibility for maintenance and fueling of those vehicles. It was also recommended that the First Aid Squad be allowed to continue to purchase fuel as a repurchasing of fuel from the Township, much like the fire companies now do at the reduced rate that the Township receives when we buy through state contract. So the recommendation was, in fact, to sell the ambulances to Franklin Somerset First Aid Squad for $4,000. And that's an overview.
Okay. Were we slated to hear from anyone else, or just our discussion?
I believe that's it. I know that one of their line officers, Evan Shigoski, is here today. If you had any questions, he's in the audience, and I believe that he's certainly more than capable of answering anything if you have any questions. I guess the question now is whether or not council wishes to dispose of these 2 particular ambulances to the First Aid Squad.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilwoman Francois.
So I'm not sure why they want to buy from us. Is that something you can address?
Mr. Shigoski, give us your name and address, Mr. Shigoski.
Okay.
And pull the microphone so it's like 3 inches from you.
That's good?
A little closer.
It's better?
Yes.
Okay. Evan Michael Shigoski of the
Close.
Franklin Somerset First Aid Squad. Address 34 Appleman Road here in Somerset, New Jersey. I'd just like to correct one thing. Sergeant Farrar had asked us, he said, if purchasing these ambulances means that you have to purchase your own fuel, would this make a difference? And I said, I don't know. I'd have to go back and get that information. We were never told that that was part of that. That was never brought to us. We don't know. I can't speak to that right now, and if that's something you guys are gonna put on us, I don't know what that cost would be. We haven't been given any information as to what we do use on an annual basis and what that cost would be. So I don't know if at that rate it would benefit us. Your question, Councilman?
Yeah, I was wondering, since we currently own the vehicles, I didn't understand why you are coming to us to buy them from us. What's in it for you is basically what I need to
I do have a
understand.
copy of the letter, the proposal that we did draft, if you guys would like to indeed see that we did get to the ELS committee, along with the,
Evan, I'd just like to kind of cut to the chase here.
okay, it's.
What financial benefit is it to the Franklin Somerset First Aid Squad for you to own these ambulances versus the township own them?
It's not necessarily a financial benefit per se. It's more or less a benefit of response. What's going on with these vehicles is one is a 96 and one is a 98. They are simply just old. On a regular basis, they need maintenance that has to do with age of a vehicle versus use. They both, I believe there's 60,000 actual miles on the 96 and some 50,000 on the 98, which is not a whole lot of mileage per se for something of that age. But there have been numerous electrical problems, including the 96 having actually caught fire at the batteries last year during the summer. Robert Wood had to push the ambulance out of the bay and the fire department came and then ended up getting towed to Township Garage. The 98 was breaking down on multiple calls. I believe there was one call where the medics actually had to transport because we couldn't get another rig to the scene because they were waiting outside in, I believe it was freezing weather, with the patient on the stretcher, and the medics are there, which means it's a life-critical event, and that's not good for the patient for them to be out in that cold weather. So it's really just an issue of maintenance, whereas if we have one vehicle out, and we're maintaining them at a level that we can maintain them, where we don't have to go through purchase orders and we don't have to go through adding vendors and whatnot, because last year one of the ambulances waited almost the better part of 2 months.
Okay, for me to use the terminology again, to cut to the chase again.
Yep.
If it's your prerogative, Franklin Somerset, to bill people if you get them, pick them up in their insurance companies. I think the policy of Franklin was if it's our ambulance, you're not allowed to bill people. If we give it to you, then you can. And that's kind of what would work out. And then part and parcel of that, I guess, is, okay, you have the vehicle, you can bill people's insurance, which is fine. That's your prerogative. You're providing a good service. And then I guess you'd pick up the fuel and maintenance costs also. So I think that's the benefit, as I'm understanding it.
The biggest issue was we were told that, new to me because I am newer to the organization, is that
Sure.
we weren't supposed to bill with the one township ambulance.
Right,
As,
yeah.
as it sits, we cannot legally not bill with that ambulance further down the road or from this point forward or any given point, because as the way it's set up is if you operate a licensed entity within the state of New Jersey through Department of Health, Office of Emergency Medical Services, you have to, if you license one vehicle, you have to have a second vehicle as a backup because it's for a 911 system. So if something happens.
Okay, so also, as a representative of Franklin Somerset, what would you like us to do? Are you unsure because you don't know about the fuel costs?
I
could
don't
defer,
know about the fuel
we could-
costs. And that's something that was not.
Do you
told to
prefer we
the party.
don't make that decision until you get
Well-
more information?
I prefer that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to agree to something when I don't know what I'm agreeing to.
I don't, we would like to purchase the vehicles. We feel it would benefit us and the community in the long run. It'd make everything compliant too.
Okay.
It's something that we do need to do. It's just the fuel aspect, I have no idea if we're talking $4,000, $5,000 a year, if we're talking 10,000 plus. I have no idea.
Evan,
makes
let me
sense.
I
Warlocker?
ask a question because I just can't help myself now. Evan, you currently operate an ambulance that you own.
Yes.
Do you provide the gas for that ambulance?
At this point, no.
The township provides that gas?
My understanding.
So there you go. There's your answer, council. We're currently providing all of their.
That was in the ELS meeting minutes from, I believe, 2008, where it was left as that, and in those meetings that were compiled by Sergeant Sierra, however you say his name, it stated at that time that we were operating four vehicles, 3 township and 1
Yeah.
squad owned. So that's the last we have in writing.
Can I just ask a question? So many
Deputy
people
Mayor
jumped in,
Sherman,
I
yeah.
lost a little bit of it. So because of the process that's necessary when you're dealing with a public entity such as this, you get delays as far as getting your equipment back in running order. Have you found yourself in a crisis as a result of that?
We have. We have actually not been able to answer second calls. We've had issues where one of our vehicles broke down last year. The one vehicle we do own broke down. We had sent out another vehicle for repair, and this third, the oldest ambulance, the one that continuously has electrical problems, it wouldn't start. We had to send our call mutual aid. We couldn't answer the call at all. It was physically not possible.
Right. So if you own them, then obviously you can use your own mechanics, you can get it done.
Yeah, I mean, we're already essentially doing that. We had talked to Kenny to get the Township garage to get something fixed, and he said if we did need to get something fixed and we can just do it on our own, that'd be perfectly fine. And in attempting to finally get this one vehicle remedied, I mean, the 71-1, we've spent the better part of $5,000 on that vehicle this year, and we don't
Right.
even own it.
Right. So
So,
this
I
is
mean,
this is
it's-
really critical that you get.
Very important for us, and we,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
Councilman Chase?
I just did some calculations, based on your saying, I think the one you've had since about 1999, you run up 50,000 miles on it. Is that approximately what you
Approximately,
said?
yeah.
So that's about 3,500, I got 3,571 miles a year. Now, I don't know what your mileage is, I just guessed at 10 miles per gallon. So that would be divide 3571 by 10, 357 times, if you were paying $3.25 a gallon, which you wouldn't be if you're buying township fuel, that would be $1,160 a year in fuel. So I mean, there's assumptions in that, but there's a ballpark figure for what your fuel expenses would be, and it sounds like, from what I heard as I was doing the calculation, your repair expenses are more than that.
Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yes, pardon me. Oh,
Go ahead.
Councilman Kramer, then Councilman.
Let the doctor speak.
So, all
Know
right.
about vehicles?
One, enough of that. I used to stand at that podium and say, please call me Mr. Kramer, or now Councilman Kramer. Please stop referring to me as Dr. Kramer. Thank you. I understand it was a term of respect, but from now on, I am not Dr. Kramer unless it's a medical issue. So I do want to go back. First of all, I have no problem with selling the ambulances to you. I do want to be clear, though, on the paid service. We have another ambulance squad in town that is not a paid service, so it's not a requirement that you be a paid service, that it can be done without being a paid service. What is a requirement, and actually I do have to put my doctor hat on now, what I do know from being a doctor is that you can't, if you have a schedule fee, if you have a fee schedule, you can't charge some people and not charge other people. So it is a
that's our
problem for you that if you have one vehicle you can charge and another vehicle you can't charge. So what you are looking for is, since you want to be a paid service, that is what Somerset has decided to be, and there's nothing wrong with that, is to be a paid service, you need both your ambulance to be free and clear to be paid. So that's another reason, a practical reason, a financial reason for doing that. So that, again, makes sense to me. And it's only $4,000, I'm saying only, $4,000 is a small sum for an ambulance. They start at, what, $80,000, $90,000? So they're well used.
That right.
And it's $4,000, so that seems all very fair.
Okay, Councilman Prasad?
I would hate to be a patient in one of those ambulances pulled off by the roadside and getting towed to the township garage instead of getting to a hospital. So from that perspective alone, patient safety, as well as, I don't know what the liability is to the township if you're ambulance breaks down and you own it, as a free enterprise believer, I think we should wash our hands off of it and, if need be, give it to them for free. I just don't think we need the liability, and the patient safety is something that I don't want to ever take a risk at. So that's my part of it, and besides, as a marketing person, it's bad press. So thank you.
Okay,
Mayor?
Councilman Vasanella?
Yeah. No, I've been following this for quite some time, and the main issue I just want to put out there is that, being on the ELS committee, and Councilman Regan, who I talked to about this, who recently got on the ELS committee, everyone on the ELS committee, all the 4 or 5 bodies, it's sometimes 4, sometimes 5, squads as a representative unanimously wanted the town to go ahead and do this. As far as the pricing, and that's where my question is, I just wanted to know if Bob or you, Evan, know if that if those prices were wholesale or retail. That was the only, because that is it.
They were wholesale.
Okay, because that's,
If we were
I had
to
asked that.
sell the vehicle to a dealer, which is something we would do, and
No, so you don't have to justify it. I
Yeah.
just, we should, in my mind, we should, because we don't have to spend any time or effort.
Nope.
And it seems like a fair, like I said, I've been following this, and all the points that were made are good points, and I think we can just move on with this unless there is, this gas issue maybe should be resolved. I know Councilman Kramer suggests we should get clarity, because I don't want there to be, we're doing something we believe the squad wants us to do. I don't want it to come back where we priced you out of the, the situation. So if we can clarify that, maybe we can just move ahead with this.
I don't, I'm gonna be completely honest. I mean, I look at what squads around us get, whether they be a squad or emergency squad or whatever they call themselves, but these EMS organizations. And I understand that in the past there have been issues with us billing. I need the council to truly understand that our billing policy is that people get a bill. They get up to 3 bills. If they cannot pay that bill and it goes to 3 bills, or they choose to ignore it, nothing happens. There's nothing bad about it. They do not get anything after a 3rd bill. They won't even get a phone call. There's nothing ever against them. If they call after that 1st bill and say, I can't afford it, we write it off. There's really nothing negative about this, and we get very minimal support from the town in my personal taking the squad jacket off opinion. I don't think it's too much to ask for fuel. I can't understand why the answer is no. This is a separate topic. It's just something that's confused me. And I don't know if anyone here can answer this. I mean, these vehicles are old enough that in one of the emails the gentleman told me we don't even have a market for it in this country. They probably have to sell it to somewhere like Haiti because of the type of the vehicle. It's something that has been made in over 8 years, that body style. So if someone can just answer, I mean, why fuel is an issue, just for the sanctity of my own mind, again, taking the jacket off, not here as Franklin Somerset, just as a member of the community living on 34 Appleman Road, I just don't understand why
Well,
it's an issue.
just, I know everyone wants to answer that, but I think I've said it before in meetings and conversations. At one point, it was a question as to whether or not, because you are paid, it's legal. We can't give certain assistance. I know we can't give you a cash stipend even if we wanted to. We stopped that when they went paid.
That is all.
But so I think the first question would be of the attorney, if it is legal to give that commodity. If it is, I'm open to the conversation, but I think that's the first question.
What, to give gas to the first aid squads?
Well, we were told we couldn't give them any kind of cash stipend support the way we have over the years once they turn paid.
Councilman, I was at those meetings of the ELS committee back in '08. We weren't told that we couldn't give them. The decision of the ELS committee was not to.
So there's no
That
legal.
that was a committee decision, not a legal
Okay.
decision.
So there's no
Because
legal
I don't think that
impediment.
the
Okay.
fact that they get reimbursed by insurance companies, which is really what we're talking about here, alters the fact that there's a statute that allows you to contribute, I believe it's $35,000 a year towards non-capital expenses, and more than that for capital expenses for volunteer first aid squads and fire squads for that case. And likewise, because of the service they provide, I don't think that it ever would be a problem to enter into a contract with them in which it's kind of an interlocal services kind of contract in which you provide those kind of services, such as gasoline or maintenance of a vehicle or those kind of things.
And I believe, as we discussed, fire and other first aid squads can basically get it at our cost, which we buy in bulk.
Well, I want to cloud this issue. The fire companies who are independent of the township and are part of an independently elected Board of Fire Commissioners and a budget that is voted on by the voters pay for their own fuel because they're not part of the township.
Right. Yeah.
They purchase fuel from us.
That's what I mean, purchase from us.
Yes, they purchase it from us. The first aid squads, there are 2 first aid squads in the township, East Millstone and Franklin Somerset. East Millstone is a totally volunteer first aid squad who does not bill for service and buys their own ambulances, and for that, we provide them with the fuel to provide the service to the township. And they also receive a stipend annually based on what is decided on by council annually as to the amount. The Franklin Somerset First Aid Squad in 2008 decided to begin to bill for services. And when they did that, it was reviewed by both the Public Safety Committee and the ELS Committee, and decisions were made via those committees that the recommendation would be, and the council went along with those recommendations, that we would no longer provide the stipend annually based on their decision to begin to bill patients, and that they would only use vehicles owned by the first aid squad when billing patients. So that's why we're at the situation that we're at now. They continue to receive fuel in the same manner that the East Millstone First Aid Squad received fuel. So that, if the decision of council is to continue that practice of providing fuel based on their service to the township, that's the decision, I guess, that could be made. And if the decision is to sell these ambulances at the recommended price of $4,000, as was recommended by the ELS committee, which is, in essence, the Franklin Somerset First Aid Squad's peers. It's comprised of other volunteer first aid squads that service the township. So that's really the nuts and bolts of this. So I don't know where else
Mr.
I
Mayor.
can go with it.
Yes, Councilwoman Francois?
So it sounds like they're coming to us, asking us to be able to buy the vehicles for $4,000. That's what was brought to us tonight. As far as making any additional policy decisions, I'm not comfortable doing them. I think it should go to public safety and be vetted through that committee. I don't think we should be making decisions about providing fuel tonight. We should answer the question and vote on what they've asked for.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion to sell them for $4,000 and defer the decision on the fuel till it runs through public safety or ELS.
Yes,
whichever.
that's the motion.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded. Any other discussion on that?
I guess I have some discussion.
Yep,
Do they want the
Chairman.
vehicles if they're not going to get the fuel? That's, can you make
Yeah.
that decision here tonight?
It is a volunteer organization, even though we do bill, but it still is comprised of volunteers, and there still are a board and a line and a membership that I do have to answer to. So, I mean, I love to make a decision, make things easier right now, but it's not my decision to make solely on my own.
But we're not
I'm-
making the fuel decision tonight, anyway.
But what if the
Stay
answer
the
is
same.
no? What if we?
Well, they don't have to buy it, right?
Then they don't have to buy it.
Then
We
they
don't sell it to
That's
them.
fine, as long as that's understood. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully that'll be expeditious, but again, if fuel decision comes out
Right.
that it's a make or break deal, we're not going to force it on you, of course.
That's fine then.
Just like everyone to remember, you say the fire departments have to buy their own fuel. They're buying that fuel with money they get from taxes.
Right, we understand,
We
Right, yeah.
don't have those taxes.
sure.
No, but you're,
Ability to levy.
but
tax.
you have an income stream. And it would, to answer your question, it would be very silly of them to say, no, we don't want the ambulance if we're going to have to pay $1,100 a year for fuel, because that ambulance is going to provide a huge income stream. And it's a good cause, and I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not berating you for charging to do a wonderful service.
We're
That-
spending a lot
right.
of money on these vehicles too. It's not
Absolutely.
It's not just $4,000 and we're done. It's $4,000 plus the $6,000 plus another few thousand.
You've all got a free ticket to heaven. You're doing good work. But because you're charging it, in my mind, we treat it like I treat it like a business, so.
I do
whatever.
understand that perspective.
Right.
Just asking
Yeah,
for a little help.
I think
that's all.
each of us to a person expresses gratitude for the work that you do. And this, me personally,
We don't
you know,
do
I have no,
thank yous.
I have no problem. If you bill, you don't bill, that's a decision of the squad. That's
Yep.
fine for me.
I agree.
Is there any other discussion? Okay,
Want to vote?
yes. On, Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the motion. You want me to repeat it?
No, I got it.
Okay. I know you don't, but
I'm sorry.
anyone else? Okay. Yes is to sell it for 4,000 and defer the decision on the fuel, and then you can make your final decision.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanel?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Mr. Shagoski, thanks for your time
What do we
and
do next?
expertise. Mr. Bornlocker will keep you and the squad abreast. Probably is the best.
Email
Okay.
to this. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
for
you,
your
sir.
service.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Okay, thanks. So now, we are going back to the agenda, which is item number 7, the mayor's report. On the agenda before the weekend, it was number 6. We had a new agenda adding executive session, so all the numbers got pushed back one. It's number 7. Agendas are by our clerk, Ms. McCarthy. Please go and get them if you like, along with associated resolutions and ordinances. You can see our agenda usually the weekend before the meeting. So today, my mug, which is a little tough to read, is New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police. I got that at the League of Municipalities, which I'll reference in a moment, which was last week. Police chiefs do obviously a great job, as do the men and women who are in our force. We recently got our accreditation for our police department, which is a stellar performance also, and my great respect and affection for all of the members in blue. Okay, so as I said, last week was the New Jersey State League of Municipalities. Many of us were there. Hopefully went to seminars that help us manage and lead better, as opposed to, and include some cost-saving items too. I'm going to give a personal note there, because I was impressed with how a couple of the mayors acted. I was honored to be asked to be on the nominating committee to pick officers for the League of Municipalities, and for the first time ever, a member was missing, so there was an even number, and there was an even vote on sending someone to a vice presidency on the executive board, and after several secret ballots, it remained tied. So one of the members there that was, who's been very active in the past, that's Mayor Gary Passante of Somerdale, that's in Camden, was he voluntarily stepped down and deferred his raising to the executive board for several years, and I just thought that was very admirable of someone to do that when he's helped out a lot. I'm sure he wanted that kind of position. The former president of the New Jersey State League of Municipalities, that's Mayor Art Ondish of Mount Arlington, that's in Morris County. He would chair the nominating committee. He helped facilitate it in a nice, peaceful manner, and I just recognize people who do good, and I aspire to be as good as they are. And I was, once more, I've mentioned this organization before, Building One New Jersey. There was an event a couple weeks ago. They're for housing fairness, education, and kind of building one New Jersey, treating the state as one instead of a bunch of tiny little kingdoms each fighting for their own. So our state speaker, Sheila Oliver, was an honoree at an event that they had, and she certainly spoke very eloquently on those topics. I'm a member of the board, but I didn't nearly assist them as much as other people did to put that together, so I honor her for that. Coming in January, the council will appoint all of our committees, commissions, boards. We just got a list from Ms. McCarthy today, didn't look at it, on people who want to be renominated. Anyone who would like to be on there, you can please contact us. We'll tell you how to go about that. We're glad to have all of our volunteers. If What I would like, and there's no compulsion, is for anyone who wants to be appointed in any way to a board, a commission, various attorneys, et cetera, to contact us. I should say contact me, because I don't want to speak for anyone else who may not want to do this. If it's allowed, I'm going to ask for any of my preferences. I can't communicate to the entire council in an email to say I would like to have this position, because that would in essence constitute a meeting, and that's not open public records. Could I send an email to the clerk to tell her to tell everyone what I'm thinking?
Well, I guess you can. If you would like, if you have some ideas as to who it is that you would like
Okay.
to see, you certainly could send an email to the clerk.
Okay, thanks.
Or just communicate to the deputy, with the deputy mayor, and do
Okay,
it
then.
in the same manner in which you handle any other item that goes on the agenda.
Okay, all right. All right, that was,
Or you could just call people.
okay, I can call them individually
Yes,
as opposed to grouply.
yes.
All right, that's a good point. All right, thanks. And as we film this, it is Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving. On Thursday, Franklin High School has its annual football game against Piscataway High School at Piscataway. Go Warriors. I'm usually at the game. I'll be there again this year. And it's broadcast on CTC, and hopefully we do a good job there, too. But as always, congrats to all the kids on both sides. And that concludes the mayor's report. Now we have the deputy mayor's report. Deputy Mayor Rosalind Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the privilege of attending a ceremony at the 6 Mile Run Reformed Church. They had done a great deal of restoration to the church and rebuilt their bell tower. So it was wonderful to see what they had done to fix the building. It's one of our historic buildings, one of our beautiful and now well-preserved historic buildings. And it was a pleasure to be there and to meet everyone. There was a great deal of appreciation for the township's role in helping them in that project. And it was wonderful to hear the chiming of the bells when that ended the ceremony. There was also an article in the paper I thought I'd bring to everyone's attention. Someone I think several of us know, Avis Yates Rivers, who is a Somerset resident, has been named one of the top 25 female businesswomen at the annual event held by the leading women entrepreneurs. It will be awarded on December 5th. So congratulations to her, and I'm sure it's a well-deserved award. Several of us were also at Atlantic City. It was a very worthwhile trip. It's something that every time, I'm sure, not only myself, but others who attend come back with tons of great ideas, new ideas, things. Some will work, some won't, some will be initiated, others not, but at least it gives you ideas of new things and new potential projects for the township. So I am still plowing through some of those, but I intend to see what we can, what of my ideas at least we can initiate. And I also just wanted to mention that this Thursday not only is Thanksgiving, but it is the first night of Hanukkah. And the first night, yes? So it's the second night, okay. Sorry about that. But what is so interesting about it is that will not happen again for 70,000 years. So assuming that we're all here, that we're still celebrating Thanksgiving and Hanukkah, it won't happen again for 70,000 years. So it is quite a phenomenon. It's very early for Hanukkah to happen. And there are a bunch of cute ways I've read for saying the combination, like thanks, Nukkah, or something like that. But I did like what the Star Ledger had, which was gobble tough. So gobble tough to everyone for Thursday's event. And that's my report.
Thank you very,
I plan to be here on 7th.
Oh, all
okay.
right.
All right, good. All right, thank you very much. One other thing from the league, I've got my sustainable jersey pin, that's because we're green. Councilman Chase is integral in getting us those credentials. Deputy Mayor Sherman, I believe, represented us at their event on that day, too. Okay, so now we're going to go to public discussion. This will be the only time to speak of things of a general nature during this meeting. Afterwards, there'll be a couple times to speak of a few items that are coming up for a second vote. But this is the only time to speak of something of a general nature. So in a moment, we're going to start that. As is our policy, we're glad to hear from you. Each person come up once per meeting for 5 minutes. We have a timer, and when you hear a tone, that means 3 minutes has elapsed. When you hear multiple tones, 5 minutes has elapsed. I'm going to ask you to wrap up your thoughts. Feel free to ask us questions. If we can answer it, we will. If we have to get back to you later, we'll certainly endeavor to do that also. We don't yield time, and please address all your comments to the council. So is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on any item of interest to the public. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand and then come to the podium and give us your name and address, please. Anyone interested in speaking? Ms. Bacon. Okay. Keep the microphone about 3 or 4 inches from yourself so that we can hear you. You know the routine. And we're being audio and video taped also. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to our attention, I'm Patricia Bacon. I live on Wilson Road. I am also the chairman of the Municipal Ethics Board, whom you have appointed to be that on the Ethics Board. It has come to our attention that the council is preparing to introduce a resolution to disband, dissolve, I've forgotten the exact word. I hesitate to use the phrase do away with, but at any rate, to move on from, perhaps that's more gentle an idea. And we would like to have the opportunity to have further discussion with you about that. And so I'm going to just share a little bit so that we remind you of who and what we are. The state established municipal ethics boards, and way back when, the council who was present at that time decided that Franklin should have one. We are one of the few municipal ethics boards in the state. Over the years, citizens have availed themselves of several opportunities. One is to seek advisory opinions about their actions. In other words, elected and appointed officials come to us and ask us about whether a situation that they might be involved in would violate the ethics code or not. They can do that in complete confidentiality and without incurring any concern or issue that anyone would even know about it, and we can sit down and talk about it and advise them. And a number of people have availed themselves over the years. I feel that there are officials that, if they are deprived of that opportunity, would find themselves in situations that they might regret being in. The other thing that we have been able to do is to provide a place for local citizens to come locally and discuss local concerns, issues that can be best understood in a situation in which fellow citizens are talking together about concerns that they have. Our goal has never been to find or catch violators and punish people. Our goal has always been, and I think we can rest very proud on some of the achievements we have, about which you will never know because we can't talk about them because they're confidential. But our primary focus has been to improve processes in the town, most of which have, bottom line, revolved around a situation in which it turns out it's a really good idea for elected or appointed officials not to vote on something about as a means of which they personally benefit financially. And that has been the primary focus, as it turns out, because that has turned out to be the primary focus of the citizens of Franklin who have come to us to have their concerns addressed. It very much is a situation of, as the Township Council way back when that established us thought, if we build it, they will come, and that's in fact what did happen. Once Franklin had a municipal ethics board, citizens did avail themselves of that, and we feel that the citizens should continue to have that resource here in Franklin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Bacon,
Yes, Councilman Kramer.
I have a question. You started your statement by saying you wished an opportunity to have the discussion with us. In what form did you want that? Or is this that?
Well, as I understand it, there will be a public hearing on the resolution when it's voted on. I expect that we would be allowed to address the council in an extended manner at that time, since it really does affect what decision would be made. I'm not exactly clear what else we can do. We're always happy to answer questions. I could do that now if anyone does have questions or concerns at this point, and if there's more time that you would like to spend on this now, I'm happy to do so.
Well, this council has always tried to be extremely open in all of its actions. So I think so tonight is a first reading, an introduction, and if it may or may not pass, I can't predict, but if it were to pass, I would propose then that we allow for a council discussion item on, this is going to come up the first meeting of December, have a council discussion on it so that you would have the time to present whatever you wish to present. I mean, within reasonable limits, say 10 minutes to present that.
Your appointees, for whom I speak, of other members of the board, would love to have that opportunity. We feel that there's been some confusion. There's been misunderstandings about what we do and how we act. Some of those are inherent in the way the law is currently formulated, the state law under which we operate. Not even the local finance board is clear on a lot of the issues as to processes that we might engage in. And so, because there are few...
Is that a yes?
That's a yes, yeah.
Okay.
So there have been misunderstandings. We'd love to be able to spend time and clear those up.
So if I wouldn't want to give you unlimited time, but perhaps if you could plan on a 10-minute council discussion item and extended by whatever questions council may have at the next meeting, if you could add that to the agenda, please.
Okay, Ms. Big, you can always write or email us in the interim if you want to get your opinion. Feel free.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And she's referring to item 15C on the agenda, in case anyone wanted to know about that. Anyone else wish to speak? Anything of a general nature?
Where's Johnny Tibbs? He must be sick.
Oh, man.
It's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one coming forward, I make a motion that we close the public.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed for this meeting. Thank you very much. So now we come to item number 10, council comments. Over here. So, Councilman Rajiv Prasad.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks.
I just wanted to firstly thank everyone for your good wishes. It helped, and your prayers helped me bounce back, and I'm here. So thank you. And then as far as the recently we had the 50th anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, who was a personal hero of mine and had a lot to do with my coming to this country. And so he will always be remembered. And other than that, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a happy Hanukkah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Carl Wright.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Phil Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome back, Mr. Prasad. And you reminded me, actually, one of my very earliest memories was of seeing JFK. I lived around New Haven at the time. He was running for president and came through, and my father lifted me up on his shoulders. And I can remember it quite vividly. I know exactly where I was. So it was interesting that 50 years have gone by. In the paper has been some discussion about New Brunswick water system and that there was contamination of the system or lack of reporting of that contamination. We get water from New Brunswick. I'll put on my doctor hat again. The most significant thing to affect public health is not antibiotics or MRIs. It is clean public water. And so that is a major responsibility of government to be able to provide that when they provide that. So I had some discussion with the township manager today about costs that it would to increase our surveillance on our side of that pipe, since there's been some question of what is happening on the other side of the pipe. And rather than going over those numbers here, they're what order of magnitude was it, just roughly?
We're talking about $15 a sample, 600 and some odd samples a year, $9,000 a year is what it will currently cost us to do it. So
if we increase that to a certain amount, so rather than going into the details, I suggest that this go to Public Works isn't really, well, Public Works.
Water system, so that's generally who would deal with the water system.
Okay, that's our closest committee to it. So certainly if they would discuss that perhaps for some amount of time we increase surveillance on our side of the pipe.
And certainly not to steal the thunder.
There's no thunder here.
There's no thunder here. The township engineer, the water engineer, and I are already working on a plan just to do this as an increased monitoring of our system, just to incorporate in our regular plan. So without any really kind of further fanfare, it's already in the works.
So great minds think alike, and I happen to be there too. So.
Not that I want to be on the role of great minds, but I do want to tell council that I received a call this afternoon from the attorney for one of our adjoining municipalities that is also a supplier, the customer of New Brunswick Water. And I gather that the municipalities who are in that circumstance have been talking, and they asked whether or not, Franklin was interested in maybe, meeting and discussing with them ways in which the municipal customers might be able to do this as kind of a joint effort, and what response that they're going to have to this. So I told them that they could send us whatever information they had, and that would probably be something that we would participate in.
I think that's a great idea. So it sounds like it's well underway. At the last council meeting, Councilwoman Sherman brought up the energy aggregation, the idea of energy aggregation, and we had actually briefly touched on it in financial oversight prior to that, and I went to the League of Municipalities, and there was a lecture on that, and I attended it actually with our manager. And I, as it will be no surprise to people who watch this, I was the fly in the ointment there, asking multiple questions, basically based on that this sounds like it's too good to be true, so what's wrong with it? And I was unable to poke any holes in it. Basically, the idea of energy aggregation is rather than PSE&G telling me what I'm going to pay for electricity, because I'm a single buyer, I have no power with them. Any group of people can get together and aggregate and say, okay, give us a bid and we're going to go to this one and this one. Who's going to supply our electrons? Just as the example I gave the other night, if I found out that all of my neighbors wanted to buy a particular make and model of car, that if 10 of us went in all at once, we might be able to work a deal. So that law was passed, I believe, in 2003 in New Jersey. Some towns have availed themselves, and it's the next coming thing. The municipality can be the group that aggregates the entire town. Very briefly, no one would be forced to do this. All citizens would have the ability to opt out, and if commercial people wanted to get involved with it, they could opt in. I won't go into every detail of it. It will take too long, but I think this is something we need to start to investigate, and it was discussed at Financial Oversight, and we decided to get the ombudsman here to discuss it with us, maybe even have a special meeting of council to discuss it. There'll be a lengthy public information part of this so that people will understand it, and we're moving forward with that. And there's been reports of some towns saving their citizens as much as, I believe it was up to 18% on their electric bills. Most of the discussion at League of Municipalities was electric, but it could also include natural gas, as I understand it. So you should be hearing more about that in the future. And lastly, I join Councilman Wright in wishing you a happy Thanksgiving and Hanukkah. Thank you.
Councilman Wright got Hanukkah, too.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Ted Chase.
I want to say something I really should have said at last meeting when buried in our consent agenda, we passed on the municipal report on our cable TV contract, and this is an essential step towards renewing, or possibly not renewing, our franchise agreement with Comcast. What I should have done and what I want to do now is commend the Cable TV committee, a volunteer committee of the township, which spent more than 2 years, I think, working on this and produced a very extensive and comprehensive report. In fact, when I asked Mr. Raynone about it, I think he said it was the best he'd ever seen, or certainly one of the best he'd ever seen. So it was really a very good job was done there. On another topic, and this is just, I'm reporting from the Environmental Commission, there was considerable dismay expressed at the extent of clearing at Middlebush Park for the current, the last stages of constructions of fields. I have to check the layout plan if I have a copy, but it did seem to members of the Environmental Commission and to myself when I went in there the other day that the clearing had extended rather into areas where I don't think any playing fields were expected. And of course, at present, it is particularly the view from the houses at the end of Rue Gauguin is particularly unobstructed, and they, of course, have complained about this. We have to feed growth hormones to the trees we're planting to get a barrier up there as quickly as possible. But I do want to see, the trouble is, of course, clearing can happen in a matter of a few minutes, and when it's done, it's done. And we've had other experiences in the township of when the guy on the bulldozer went beyond what he was really supposed to do. But we'll look into that. And happy Thanksgiving to all, and happy Hanukkah.
Thank you. Councilman James Vasanella.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not aware of the Environmental Commission. I don't know if they're going to present council with a formal memo or something. I usually look at your minutes. I didn't see that. Perhaps it was in one of the minutes.
Those minutes
okay.
haven't come through to you.
So, of course, without anybody making any judgments, because we haven't, at least I haven't looked at the entire situation to know, but it would be a terrible thing if after all the debate that went on with that and the concerns of how much we were building out, even the people who favored the building out, I believe, wanted there to be as much of a buffer of natural trees, etc., still left. So just knowing a little bit about construction, whatever the easiest thing to do usually when they're in there, contractor, excavator, usually the easiest thing for them carrying out their tasks is usually the path that they'll take. So I'm not suggesting they did anything wrong, but I sure hope that we can monitor perhaps a little bit better any future development where we don't have to lose any more trees or growth than we did. But other than that, and I just heard this tonight, so I wasn't aware of it, but please slow down when you're out there driving. I know everybody's in a rush. It's the holidays. If you get somewhere 10 minutes later, if you miss some sale, it really doesn't matter in the bigger scheme of things. Accidents are usually on a major, well, let's just say, seem to increase this time of year. And just be careful out there at the holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving or what seems to be one long holiday here between now and the first of the year. Be safe and enjoy.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Brian Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just really brief comments tonight. It's the season of Thanksgiving. I just really want to wish all our residents and their family happy Thanksgiving, as this really is a very special holiday to all of us in America. It's one that we can all partake in and offer thanks for really the wonderful land and country that we have. Relative to the water quality report that Councilman Kramer mentioned that came out, I too also spoke to Mr. Bornlacher about it the day that I saw it in the paper. And I passed on my concern that, you know, from our point of view, if there are any issues relative to because of the water quality reporting and falsifying of reports by the, New Brunswick, that if we have to incur any additional costs relative to retesting, or if there's anything like that, you know, I suggested that we have to be prepared to go after New Brunswick for reimbursement of those costs, and then also naturally in any sort of discussion of the contract that they be reminded that they were not proper with their reporting. It's something that we should not take lightly, as falsifying reports is, if the accusation is true, it's a very critical and one that is a serious one. So certainly if we incur any additional costs because of that, then we should get it back from New Brunswick. And that's it for tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is a time for us to express our gratitude to God and express gratitude to our friends and our families and our loved ones, and express gratitude for this great township that we live in called Franklin Township. I know I've had a lot of time to reflect on all the blessings that I have, and it's a very special season for me and my family, and I hope it's the same for everybody else out there. I was looking at the news, and they were talking about Syria and how so many people, hundreds of thousands of people have died because they've been starved to death. And we sit and talk about the 45,000 calories we eat on Thanksgiving Day and how we need to cut back. And so we really live in a land of many, many blessings, and we have so much to be grateful for, so much to be thankful for. So I'd like to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody and happy Hanukkah as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, Bob Vornlocker, would you like anything
the,
now?
The only thing I'd like to address is I understand some of the concerns expressed by council members in reference to the construction at Middlebush Park. I'd just like to reassure all of you that there is an engineering inspector on site every day to ensure that the contractors are following the plans as they were approved by council, and that there's been no deviation from the plans as far as any of the clearing that's taken place on the property. The trees that were, we've started to plant along the berm near the backside of the property where there are houses, the Pizzo houses to the rear of the park have begun. There are additional trees yet to be planted that haven't been received yet that will fill in between the trees that were planted there within the last week. So the concerns regarding any type of clearing that was beyond what was to be done has not happened. And in fact, engineering was just out again this week to do further inspection based on some concerns that were brought to light and subsequently found not to be true as far as some of the issues with wetlands in the park. So just to try to put your mind at ease that there is constant monitoring by the engineering department of that construction at the park. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Rosalind Sherman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for that comment, because you can just assume where my mind was going when I heard that.
And that's why I was looking at you as I was saying it.
Yes. I mean, anything that would make this any more of a distress for the residents there would be a major issue for me. So, okay. I still will talk to Ted, though, and try to understand where they're coming from, because anything we can do to make it better is definitely something I will look into. I have two other small things to talk about. This Saturday, November 30th, at the library at 1:30, we have the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council has a program being sponsored by the Literary Arts Committee. There is an author by the name of Nikolai Berlikov, who will be speaking about several books that he's written and the world of Russian borscht. So, sounds interesting, sounds different, so please show up. It's at the library up here on DeMott Lane. Don't think there's any charge for it, so please, it should be a pleasant way to spend your Saturday afternoon, or at least a small portion of it. The other, just a little note that someone had sent an email to the Cultural Arts Council I thought I'd share with you, again about a Franklin Township resident, a gentleman by the name of Roger Parr, has had his album has been accepted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we have someone here in Franklin Township in the Somerset area who has achieved some high-level musical acclaim. So congratulations to Mr. Parr, and we need to find out what his album is all about. It's a recently issued album that's taken him many years to put together, but it seems to have gotten quite a remarkable reviews. I think it's called Hindsight. I forgot to write down the name of it, but I think that's what it is. But congratulations, Mr. Parr. We're very proud of you. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now for my comments. Now, I'll only center on the water issue because that was raised and it had to do with someone from New Brunswick, as was said, from whom we buy water, falsifying support. I'm basically in the camp of Councilman Regan. I think we should tell New Brunswick to ante up. We're going with extra costs in all kinds of areas. For what happened with them, I think they should be paying. Not only that, as I understand it, their person is suspended but not terminated. That's their decision. But as far as I would be concerned, as long as that person is still a member of their water department, I would be extra diligent and be wondering why that was happening. And that's all I have, except for the Happy Thanksgiving note. And that concludes my council comments. So now we go to item 11, council discussion items. One of them, 11B, we did, that's the purchase of the ambulance. So you're going to go to 11A or 11-1, depending on your agenda, is flood mitigation status
Mr.
report.
Mayor?
Yes.
I've
Councilman
actually had some conversations with our township manager.
Yes.
I've read the report, and I'd like to
Flood
table
mitigation
this.
report?
Yes. I'd like to table this because there are a number of questions that, just because of time, I've not been able to discuss with Mr. Vornlacher, and he understands some of the questions I have, but we just haven't had time to work through them. So I'd like to make a proposal to table this until we have another meeting in December. Yeah, so to the 9th.
I'm sorry, 10.
10th.
Tentatively to our December meeting, which is December 10th, right? Okay. I should interject, which I didn't say before. Generally, our meetings are on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. In December, there's only one meeting on the second Tuesday of the month.
Yeah.
Then January 4th, 2 p.m., we do our reorganization where our members who won the election are sworn in as council people, a few key appointments. Then the first Tuesday of January, instead of the second Tuesday, we have our first meeting to make other appointments and start a business. So in December, only one meeting on the 10th, the second Tuesday of the month. So if there's no objection, we'll hold that till next meeting. Okay. And now, 11-3, Studhoff Gunther Farmstead Feasibility Study, the very patient. Barbara Lawrence is going to give us her presentation. So, again, thank you for your patience here.
And Marie's going to help me here.
And while that's getting ready, as I understand, this, the concepts, the study have been through our Open Space Committee and our Land Use Committee. Okay, Ms. Lawrence, thanks for coming.
Hi, I'm Barbara Lawrence, 383 South Middlebush Road, a longtime resident of Franklin
Speaking to the
Township.
mic, yeah, thank you.
I'm here today to talk about a key opportunity we have and to tell you about a study, a planning and feasibility study and business plan developed for use of the Studhoff Gunther Farmstead with the Cherry Valley Consulting Group that we think will that offers the town a unique and really exciting plan to deal with some of our historic sites. One thing I wanted to open with, is just to say that this summer, the New Jersey Historic Commission published a study they'd commissioned on heritage tourism, and in New Jersey, 8% of tourism money is spent on heritage tourism to the tune of $8.2 billion in New Jersey. So when people worry about historic preservation and what we do with our history and how we use it for the citizens of our town, there is a payoff for this, including 37,527 jobs. Slideshow. Okay. And so in the case of the town owns 22 historic structures. For this particular structure and for the entire farmstead, we now have, after a long time of work, a specific plan of a unique and intriguing recreational learning environment to use the entire farmstead. We even have funds, $235,000, to be spent on stabilization of the farmhouse itself. And the Cherry Valley Group put together an extensive quantity of data to support the plan. There were economists, marketing people, we did community studies. So the whole plan, which is about 100 pages long, is extremely detailed business plan, marketing plan of how we would use this site and how it compares the studies we've done within the community over 6 months and the comparison to other outdoor museums and other historic sites in the region and as business models. I have to point it there. Worked before.
You're pointing at, you want to point at the computer that it's on, is it Anne Marie's computer?
Yeah, I can do from here. There we go.
Yes. Okay. The plan itself, the bottom line of it, is this plot plan of the Stutthof-Gunther farmstead, including a part of the land that's now associated with the Nevius Dunn house, leaving the house as a separate entity, which there are other plans for, although there are ways we talked about including it. This recreational learning environment would really connect the people of the town and their visitors to how the land is used and how agriculture sustains us. It would represent it would help people understand that you can't have development without having land, and you can't have the land by itself, that the whole relationship between them is really important, and that agriculture sustains us.
Here we go.
The decisions that I'm asking you to deal with tonight, there are two. One, in fact, Mr. Vornlacher has already committed to spending the $235,000 in grant funding that we have in hand from 2009 and 2010. And we have the specific construction drawings and exact plans of what to do to stabilize the farmhouse itself, which is a 1740 farm of architectural significance as well as historic significance. As most of you have heard me say, this land has been farmed since 1740 and is still farmed today. But what I'd like to ask is, I'm sure Mr. Vornlacher has at least 50 items on his first priority to-do list. I'd like to suggest that you urge him to put this one on those 50 items as well. The second thing I'd like to ask tonight is that we incorporate the Cherry Valley Plan for the Agricultural Center into the historic preservation element of the Township Master Plan. The town make a commitment that this is something worth doing. This site, which is on a township designated scenic byway, the part of South Middlebush Road from Blackwell's Mills to Saddam, and that scenic byway has been, you've just approved adding the new revised open space plan to your master plan, and that this scenic byway is noted in that plan. This provides us with an opportunity for recreation, for learning, for a place that people can use every day to take a walk. The trails are designed in conjunction with the master trails plan so that everything connects in terms of the north-south trail plan. There'll be opportunities for particular programming to learn about the environment, to hold programs and events, both indoor and outdoor. The barn that's in back of the house, the part of it that's the concrete barn that's salvageable, would be preserved and stabilized to be used as an indoor teaching or event space. The farmhouse would be used. We would stabilize the building, which we have the money for. We would work with the first floor. We would not attempt to completely rehabilitate the second floor, which doesn't have a lot of historic structure left in most of it, and would be expensive to pursue, but that we would use the first floor, part of it as a museum and exhibit space, and part of it for offices. Whoops. Yeah. As I said, we raised a total over $300,000 in funds over the years for this site. The $50,000 from the New Jersey Historic Trust is what gave us this feasibility study and very detailed plan for this agricultural heritage center. The other two grants come from Somerset County, and we've spent $17,000 of the first grant in developing the construction drawings and the specific plans of how to use the next two parts of the money, and the county has indicated that they would be willing to combine the two grants and allow us to use some of the costs for soft money as well as construction money, meaning for the management of the project. So this is one of those cases where we have a plan and we even have starter money to move ahead. The markets, whoops, come on, go backwards.
Go that one?
Oh, I know what I changed the order.
I see. Go one more?
So we'll do this one first. The economic feasibility study, and this is where you hope you don't fall off your chairs, suggests that the typical cost of running this facility, and there are very detailed budgets in the plan, would cost about $220,000 a year. That about $40,000 could be raised in earned revenue, that there would be about 17,000 visitors a year. I think that the earned revenue number is low, based on my experience working with nonprofits, but there would have to be other funds raised from grants, from the town, from some kind of help. There's also a $1.7 million capital cost associated with making this commitment.
Sorry, repeat that last statement?
There's a $1.7 million cost. Remember, you've spent...
You want to go back?
Let's go. Oh. Where are we
Which way do you want to go?
The one after this.
This one?
Yes. Okay. So, and I will note that one of the findings was that the Association for Living History, Farm and Agricultural Museums, who knew that there was such a thing, found that 62% of these entities either partner with or are run by a government entity. So it's not an unusual model to have local support. Things like the Howell Living History Farm are completely supported by Mercer County, for example. Now, if we go back to that map.
This one?
Yes, thank you. The markets that we would serve are very much local residents and their visitors. One of the things visitors in New Jersey like to do is take their visiting relatives to local sites of one kind or another. The area, the blue obviously is our township. The red are the area where people can get to this farmstead in 15 minutes. The green circle is 30 minutes. The blue is within 45 minutes. The green area is Somerset County. So you can see that there are a lot of people within easy range of coming to this site. Next slide. Next one. There. On this site, as I said, we'd have interpretive trails that will connect with the township trail system. We would recreate and restore some of the agricultural landscape, including the apple orchards that the Gunther family used to have, and apple trees age out after a while. I was thinking of that today. I didn't know the Gunther family at the time, but I was in the supermarket and looking at apple cider, and I remember I used to go there and buy apple cider from Ray. The multi-purpose building, as I mentioned, would be the concrete part of the barn. The farmhouse itself would serve as an office and an exhibit space of some of the very early colonial features of the house. There would be flexible program space if you look back at the map for programming pavilions community gardens, horticulture, demonstration fields, and some of the township would still lease some of the land, as it does now, to farmers. There would be a kids' agricultural playscape or playground, and if you think of the wonderful job the county has done in Colonial Park with that, I don't know how many of you look at that kids' playground. I don't have little kids, but I have a dog who likes little kids, and they really made that a fabulous place. And if you think of something like that, except that the things kids climb on and play with look like tractors and cows rather than something else, that's what we're talking about. To get people of all ages and families engaged in what it takes to grow something, to have a good time, and to relate to the land. Because I think of the townhouses that are just south of this farm. Most of those people think that the food comes from the Stop and Shop that's just on the south side of them, and in fact is more of the food comes from what's on the northern end of South Middlebush Road, including, of course, the cows at Middlebush Farm. So the other 2 pages in your presentation just give you a bibliography, as it were, of some of the reports and plans that have been done to support this project. And I just want to thank you for giving us the chance from the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission to present this study. We are really, really excited about this, and we hope you will be too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there discussion from the council? If not, Councilman Chase.
Barbara, I have to say one thing. I think it's up to the planning board to adopt the Cherry Valley plan into the master plan. So you may have to do the presentation once more.
I thought I was done.
Now, I'm sorry, but that's procedure. The planning board adopts the master plan, not the council.
Okay. So how do I get to do that?
Well, contact Mark Healy.
Poor man. Okay.
But you're right, the purse strings are under us, so there's a final decision there.
Mayor, that's what I was just wondering. So,
Councilman
I mean, I understand the numbers I was looking at, the sheet you gave us, but other than inserting it into the master plan, is there a specific request you're putting on the table? Maybe subtle, I just missed it, but are you asking for the 1.7 or the town to take it on as operating expenses?
I'm asking that this go into the master plan as something the town would like to do.
Okay.
As the same as you say you want to preserve farmland or preserve certain open space, I'd like a commitment from the town.
Can you be by the microphone just so we keep picking it up? Sorry.
Anyway, I'm asking for a commitment from the town to either put this into their plans. We have done everything that we've been asked in trying to design how to preserve this, what to do with it, how to benefit the town. There are detailed pages and pages of all aspects of what it would take to run such an agricultural heritage center, and it would be very different. It wouldn't be competing with the living history farms, which are about one period in time. It would be about the entire history. One of the documents that goes with this is a 40-page agricultural timeline of that site and of local agriculture that really puts in perspective from before the Dutch came here, what was going on in the land around here and within New Jersey, and the time periods when different crops came and went, and how the farming was done. So it gives us an extremely rich tool with which to do some programming and planning. The plan is based on not doing it all at once, but on committing to the entire plan. At least the economics are based on that. So it's not like we can say we'll only do these 5 acres. It's based on the entire environment of farming and the viewshed that's there, and on being able to use all parts of it in one way or another. So it doesn't mean that you're voting now on $1.7 million, nor have we, said about identifying all of the sources of money. But
Ms. Lawrence, I was going to ask our attorney to give you a procedure, Mr. Lou Ragnon, on how this might go also.
I guess it's always a good idea, I always think, to talk to Mark Healy. I'm not really quite sure whether this is something that becomes part of our master plan, though. It doesn't sound to me, it sounds like something
That's
that
what I
might
was gonna
become
ask.
part of an open space master plan, but it's really not a planning.
Back to the microphone.
it would become part of the historic preservation element.
Well, you can
That's-
talk to Mark about it. This sounds to be more of a specific kind of capital project than would normally be in that, but that's okay. I talked to Mark. He'll explain to you where it would fit into the plan.
Okay, and remember, our options here this is property we already own. We either do something with it or we don't. And it rots and falls down. So that's, but I will go before the planning board. We have been through open space, obviously Historic Preservation Advisory Commission, open space and land use said next step is town council, because you've paid for this study, you want to know what happened. If I will next go to the planning board and.
Councilman Chase?
Well, I do want to reiterate what you have said to our manager. We have this county grant money, let's spend it on stabilizing the house before the county decides to take the money back. And the second thought I had was perhaps the first thing to start with would be the apple orchard, based on the thought that it takes apple trees a while to grow, and also the thought that the Shade Tree Commission accumulates money for the planting of trees, and perhaps we could use some of that to plant some apple trees. And I know that apple trees have been planted at Rockingham. They're developing a colonial orchard at Rockingham, so we might start with that here. Small ticket item to get started with.
I like that.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just one
Councilman
comment.
Prasad?
Is there any thought to tying up with the high school or the VOTEC to get some kind of a Future Farmers of America program going so that we could train some of those kids who may want to be farmers but have no exposure to it, and this may be one place where they could get the exposure and the training. Number two is, of course, the nursery. That in itself can be a very paying proposition, where you could supply the trees, the horticultural trees for all of the township if need be, but it could be a profit center in itself. So those are just some thoughts that you may want to make it into a for-profit, self-sustaining unit rather than having it as a drain on the township resources. So those are just some thoughts. Otherwise, it's a great idea. I think we will be the envy of the county, if not of the whole state, by having something like this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we have in the report an extensive list of partners, including the Rutgers, Cook College,
Great.
potential partners, and the school board, for that matter. I know that some of the we have one community garden in town. This could either be another community garden for another part of town, or a kind of a plant-a-row where volunteers would grow food for the food bank. We have a list of quite a few organizations that we would explore partnering with if we had a project manager to help us do this. Thank you.
That seems like a good concept. If Rutgers or Cook College would throw their full weight behind it, we'd be happy. Good concept. Anyone else discussion?
I'd just like to make a comment.
Councilwoman
I was
Francois?
very, very impressed with the plan. Shows a lot of depth and a lot of vision for that area. And I just wanted to congratulate you. I was very, very impressed. And I think you have some great ideas.
Well, thank
We ought
you.
to be able to come up with something.
It was the work of quite a lot of people. Tom Gale just left, Susan Goldie, Barbara Tenbrook, the whole Historic Preservation Advisory Commission, the staff here, Mark Healy and Vince Dominic have worked very closely with us through managing the grant projects and through building community support. And we spoke to many people. We had one large public meeting. We did surveys. We reached out as best we could, and it took a significant team of us, along with the consultants, to make all of this happen. And it was really, I think, it was a good effort. We had a good time doing it, and everybody learned.
It
something.
shows. It definitely shows. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks. If no other comments, and as always, Mr. Vornlocker, I know you'll keep us abreast if it's going through staff. Thank you so much. Okay, so that concludes item 11, council discussion items. Thanks very much for your time here. We come now to item number 12, approval of minutes. We do not have any submitted before us today. We come to item number 13, approval of warrants. Warrants are the bills that we pay. Warrants in the amount of $16,399,213.29 on November 26th, 2013 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Is there a motion to pay the warrant as written?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on payment of the warrants.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer,
Yes.
Mayor Levine,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilman Regan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. We now come to our ordinance hearings. Ordinances generally go into law after 2 votes. There's a first vote, which we'll do on several later. Usually the next meeting, there's a second vote, and at that second vote, there's a hearing. Public can say anything, speak to us about that particular ordinance. If it passes a second time, then it goes into law. So I want to ask for, if anyone wants to make comments, it's going to be on these particular ordinances. So the first is 14A, or 14-1, depending on your agenda. Ordinance number 4042-13. An ordinance to amend the municipal code, chapter 226, vehicles and traffic, more particularly code section 227-10, stopping or standing prohibited at all times on certain streets, to delete Pine Street and add Matilda Avenue, and code section 226-13, parking prohibited at all times on certain streets, to amend Matilda Avenue. This basically changed due to our Leawood development. This has been through our Public Safety Committee. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one coming forward to speak, I move to close the public discussion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there motion for final passage of the ordinance? Publication in
moved.
accordance with the law.
Seconded.
Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 14A, ordinance 4042-13, please.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Kramer,
Yes.
Mayor Levine,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilman Regan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, second of the four is 14B, ordinance 4042-13. An ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 350, taxicabs and limousines, Section 350-3, fees, deleting limousine vehicle fee. This puts us in line with New Jersey state law. It's eliminating the limousine vehicle fee, but we still do have a license fee for limousines. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is open for this ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one come forward for public discussion, I move that we close that section.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 14B, ordinance 4042-13, please.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Kramer,
Yes.
Mayor Levine,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilman Regan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, we next come to item 14C, ordinance 4044-13. Ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 230, Massage, Bodywork, and Somatic Therapy, to delete massage, bodywork, and somatic therapist application and permit requirements. In Franklin, we were licensing massage therapists and their businesses. Now the state of New Jersey licenses massage therapists, so we're deleting that from our ordinance, and the state does it, but we're still licensing the business, the organization. The township attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is a motion for meeting to be open for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one come forward, Mr. Mayor, I move that we close that portion of the meeting.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 14C, ordinance 4044-13, please.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Kramer,
Yes.
Mayor Levine,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilman Regan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. Now the final of our ordinance hearings, 14D, ordinance 4045-13, an ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, Chapter 46, Personnel Policies, Section 46-13, Retirement Benefits, delete subsection C. This basically will limit lifetime health care benefits to people who have been in the state pension plan 25 years and 20 years with Franklin.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Inone, please, yes.
There was a second, as we discussed this ordinance, there was a second part of this ordinance that has not been included, and I'm recommending that maybe tonight, instead of holding the public hearing, we amend the ordinance and then hold a public hearing and adopt it at our next meeting. The second provision, as council discussed, was that employees and hired after the effective date of the ordinance would not be eligible upon retirement for lifetime health benefits. And that was a provision that was to be in the ordinance. So my recommendation would be that we make a motion to amend the ordinance tonight to include that, and then we'll schedule it for a public hearing and we'll adopt it at our meeting in December.
Okay, so recommendation, don't have the public hearing, but recommending, as we discussed, a motion to amend the ordinance for the provisions as you had stated.
Correct.
Which basically becomes an introduction now.
Correct.
Okay,
And then we'll adopt the ordinance as amended and hold a public hearing on it as amended at the next meeting.
okay. So is there a motion or discussion first to amend as discussed by Mr. Rainone, and that part had been discussed by all of us before.
Motion to amend.
Second.
Is there discussion on that? Okay. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on motion to amend. So I'm going to ask parliamentary for Mr. Rainone. Do I amend and then introduce, or it's all in
No,
one?
you're just making a motion to amend, and the motion to amend also includes the ordinance being republished and put on for adoption as amended in December.
And, okay, so adoption and public hearing December 10th, I believe
Correct.
it is. Okay,
Correct.
that's part of the motion, and second, I'll take it. Okay, Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the motion to amend.
Councilman Chase.
Can you pass over me and move on?
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes for a motion to amend for introduction.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright. Councilman Chase.
Well, yes. As a beneficiary of lifetime health benefits from Rutgers University, I hesitate to withdraw it completely, but of course we have to think of what it costs the taxpayer.
Okay, so thank you. Motion is carried. So that complete ordinance and public hearing will come to us on December 10th. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, so we have 3 ordinance introductions. First is 15A, ordinance 4041-13, an ordinance amending the Code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 354, Telecommunication Services, Appendix A 401, Article 10, United Fiber and Data LLC. This is basically a right-of-way agreement for United Fiber and Data. Anyone who's putting these fiber optics under our ground has to have an ordinance to allow them to do that, so this is allowing them to do that. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, December 10th, 2013, 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on 15A, ordinance 4041-13, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes?
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. Next is 15B, ordinance 4046-13, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. Authorize acceptance of easement, of access easement, BGS Holdings, Inc., docket number PLN 13-00006, block 517.06, lot 9.01. They're also known as Novell Labs. They're expanding, which is nice. We like to have our businesses expand in town, and it's for a water main and how we're configuring that. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, December 10th at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 15B, ordinance 4046-13, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, have the final of ordinance introductions. This is the one that was alluded to by one of the speakers earlier. 15C on our agenda, ordinance 4047-13, an ordinance to amend the Code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly transferring the responsibility of ethics complaints to the State of New Jersey. Basically, we have Municipal Ethics Board, no longer having our Municipal Ethics Board, and that function will be taken over by the State of New Jersey, which does it for most municipalities. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, December 10th, 2013, at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Kramer.
So just to be clear, as the mayor just said, this is not an elimination of any right of any citizen or the ability to investigate ethics charges against anyone. It moves it from the local responsibility to the state responsibility. Having a local ethics board costs money. Having it done by the an organization called the Local Finance Board, which is not local, it is at Trenton. But it would cost us nothing to have it done there. So the question becomes, what is better, to have it done locally where people understand local concerns, but it costs money, versus in this time of cost containment, having it done by the state, who might not be as sensitive to our local issues, maybe not as accessible to local citizens, or they would feel less accessible, but we would save, potentially save money there. I won't telegraph how I'm going to vote. I just would like to say I respect both opinions on this. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
I do just have one question.
Oh,
We'll have
Deputy
an
Mayor Sherman?
opportunity to make other comments when we have the second reading, right? And we've invited the ethics
Yeah,
board.
you can certainly do it now. You can
Yeah,
certainly do it next time.
I would rather save my comments for them. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. And for my comments, and Councilman Kramer said it properly, as always. But it's, and I'm usually like to watch the money, so for me it's, okay, it is costing a little, but I'm in the business of providing services, and if I can do a better service locally, my opinion is I'd be willing to allocate that money. And for me, I think it's one of those times when I think the money could be well spent locally, and I kind of like that concept. And, but again, I'm repeating, or I'm quoting Councilman Kramer, I respect both votes, decision. I respect opinions on both sides of this issue. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Councilman
Yes.
Regan, then Councilman Chase.
So again, the only thing I would mention here at this time is that, it's clear that the Local Finance Board in Trenton is a professional organization, and they handle this across the state, issues across the state, very professionally, effectively, in a manner that really kind of removes any local nuances that have crept up. So though certainly both opinions can be respected, my view would be that shared services with Trenton would be more effective use of our funds.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, since everyone's made their comments, I
Deputy
did
Sherman.
just want to ask the question, the statistic of how many communities have their own ethics board. Mr. Renon, can you refresh my memory?
I
Mr.
believe
Renown?
out of the 565 municipalities in the state, or 566, there are 33.
33. So the state is doing quite well handling ethics cases as they crop up from other communities. It was perhaps an idea that was, the time has come to rethink it, and I think we've had some pause in our thoughts with regard to keeping it here. It's not just money. It has more to do with what's practical and what makes sense and what really would serve our community best. And I don't see the necessity to go into it in any more detail, but there are a number of good reasons on both sides, but I won't go beyond that for now.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Reed.
So I'm sorry, because I was late, so did something happen earlier in the meeting that there's now a council? So I'm confused, because like, we have an introduction of an ordinance, and then we have a public session on the second of that. So why are we doing a council discussion agenda item?
Because I requested it.
And what is,
ha-
what's the difference between having that public hearing where the our residents and our citizens get to come in to express their views on it? Or what makes this one so special that we're going to have a council discussion item?
It's,
Councilman Kramer, do you want to?
it's not unusual that when we have an ordinance that applies to a certain area and there's a certain expertise, that we have that expert speak towards that.
And what expert is it that would be coming in?
The Ethics Board.
We had
Well,
a speaker from the Ethics Board who requested further discussion with the council, and it was thought that that would be an efficient way to do it.
All right, because they came into the Finance Oversight Committee nearly a year ago, as, you know, as we've officially recorded, that topic has been a topic of executive session twice. So I'm missing the value added here of having that. Other than, I truly believe they have their right, as everybody else does, on the reading to come up and make their comments like everybody else. So given that they have that, I don't see I'm having a hard time understanding the added value of a council discussion item.
All right, if I can paraphrase just, and I'm not weighing in on either side, but just so I understand, you're basically saying that what could happen at the ordinance hearing would be the same thing that would happen at a council discussion? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. Like, what would you say in a council discussion item that you can't say in public comments, or vice versa?
So,
Councilman Kramer?
thank you.
I mean, go ahead. I think we basically had the policy that it's a council person's prerogative to put it on the agenda. It can certainly be taken off, but go ahead. I'm respecting that right, though.
So what I said was, when you were late, you didn't get to hear it, is here in Franklin, we have the history that we're very open about what we do. And we are considering eliminating the local ethics board and moving it to the local finance board, which is a statewide function. I think that's a big deal, and I think it deserves an open discussion, and I would like to hear from the ethics board without having the constraint of the 5-minute beeper, though I asked them to hold it down to 10 minutes. And as a matter of fact, the prestige of sitting at this table, which I believe there is some prestige to that. I think we owe the people who have served on that board that privilege so that we can make an informed discussion. I don't know what the problem is with listening to what they have to say.
There is no problem with it. In fact, we've listened to them multiple times.
But the
and
public
one
has,
being
the public,
one being
so I
at a
still have the-
financial
So I
oversight.
still have the floor.
Councilman Kramer, go ahead.
The thing is, the public hasn't heard from them, and I think they have the right to do that. That's all I'm doing, is I'm giving them the ability to speak.
Okay. Councilman Reed, you
And
want to keep?
I fully agree with their right to speak, and that's what's called the public comment on second reading of the ordinance. That's what it's there for. It's there to ensure that our residents and our citizens get to voice their comments and their opinion on the ordinance that is coming in front of council. And you're right, we have a history of preserving that and respecting that and giving that, and obviously it's also by law, so like it's not, you know, we're following the law, and they have that right to do it, and so as it's law, we allow them to do it. I'm still confused as to what they would say in council comments that they can't say in the public session on the second reading. I mean, if there's other council people who say like, yep, Councilman Regan, this is what can be said different, and tee that up for me, I'm willing to hear that.
I'm just going to give the technical answer here, too. Technically, the mayor and deputy mayor make the agenda. Functionally, we've never denied a council person the ability to put something on the agenda. And if we come to the agenda next meeting and council people want to vote it off of the agenda, it's on, you know, that's certainly their prerogative also.
Yeah, I guess I didn't get into the voting. I'm just asking to understand the difference of what someone would say, like technically, and maybe our attorney can help me understand this. Like, is there something different, Lou, that a resident or somebody could say in the public session or in the versus a council discussion item that they would not be able to say in the public forum of the second reading of an ordinance?
I don't think so. I mean, they're all public comments, so.
Okay, so the answer is no, there's nothing different. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, Councilman Chase?
I would think that the difference might be that if we have a discussion item, we might have some back and forth, some give and take between the ethics board and the council, and we might be able to arrive at something different to do than simply sending the function to the local finance board. Whereas when we have a public hearing, the public is supposed to stand up, speak their piece, and sit down, and then the council votes. There really is not provision for discussion and working things out in the public hearing format.
Okay, Councilman Vasanella?
Yeah, I'm not going to make a judgment of whether or not we should have, and obviously that would be only done by vote, whether or not to have a discussion item. The only thing I guess I'd like to understand a little bit better is usually a discussion item you have, how do I want to put this, like new information or factual information or like tonight a report that had been worked on for a while. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to have a discussion item and council votes to leave it on or just it stays on, I want to make sure we're getting factual, concrete information. I want to hear their opinions from the board members, but at the same time, if we're not understanding the pros and cons in a technical matter, what our options are. I mean, I just don't want it to be a free-for-all where there's opinions back and forth. If there's really, truly new information, options, Councilman Chase suggested there may be other alternatives. Otherwise, then I don't know. And then there's certain issues that were discussed in executive session, which I think were of concern to a lot of us, and obviously I can't go into that here, but I'd want to make sure what specifically we are allowed to discuss, and perhaps we can get a little bit objective general background on why towns have or haven't kept them. I mean, if we're going to have a discussion, let's make it of some substance, not just in another 10 minutes they add on to the 5 minutes that someone from the public would come give their opinion.
Okay. Any other discussion, or we'll go to the vote to introduce Councilman Wright?
Sure. Let's call for the question, but I'm in agreement with my councilman that's sitting to my right. There's no harm in listening to them, and it's no harm for an honest discussion. So I'm all in with Councilman Kramer.
I'm sorry, Councilman Prasad, were you saying you wanted to say something?
No, I just called the question.
Okay, also.
And I know the mayor doesn't like people being muzzled, so I think we should give them an opportunity to speak.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, if none other, thanks. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 15C, ordinance 4047-13, please.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Kramer,
No.
Mayor Levine,
No.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilman Regan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
No.
Okay. The motion is carried. We'll see that on December 10th. So now we come to our consent agenda. Consent agenda items of a generally routine nature that are voted on at one time. We have items 16, 1 through 18. They're presented to the council. They're listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting. They're presented to the Township Council for adoption. It's any council person's right to remove and a prerogative to remove an item for a separate vote or discussion. Is there a motion for the consent agenda or discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. No further discussion. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on the consent agenda.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Kramer,
Yes.
Mayor Levine,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilman Regan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. We now have item 17, resolutions voted on separately. I believe this was added since the weekend, if you'd looked at our agenda. Resolution, actually, we've got two, don't we?
Yes. But the first one dovetails with the second one.
Okay. So I'll do them both, and if we can, someone can vote on, we can do them together, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do both. Someone wants to split them, fine. If they want them together, that's
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
I hate
Councilman
to
Wright?
interrupt, but
No, no. Right.
since we're going to establish a district ad hoc committee, at the same time, is it possible that we name 4 interim members, because we're going to do a reorg in January? Is it possible to name the 4 interim members at the same time, instead of just having the motion voted on, and then try to come back and staff it? So is that possible? I'm asking you or our legal attorney
I
there.
think that the resolution forms a committee and appoints the council people.
It already does?
Levine, Reagan,
It's a
Vasanella, and Wright.
resolution, not an ordinance.
I said resolution, I believe. Yeah.
I missed it because I don't have it on mine, but I'll go with you on that one.
Does, resolution, be it resolved, establishes the mayor, Councilman Reagan, Councilman Vasanella, and you as members of the committee.
The mayor, myself, Councilman Regan,
Yes.
and Councilman Vasanella.
Correct.
Okay, I'm down.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. So it's 2 resolutions. The first is Resolution 13-547 to establish Hamilton Street Special Improvement District Ad Hoc Committee, because we have, based on a bunch of...
One more
Yeah.
question.
Right, go ahead.
This is interim. It's not permanent, correct?
I'm not sure what that means.
In January, we have our reorganization where we pick council members.
No, it's not, I think you're establishing this committee, and it's not a committee that just is going to go from now into the first, if
Okay.
that's your question. It's a
Okay.
committee that you're establishing.
Okay, okay,
Ad hoc.
Ad hoc, isn't
Ad
that?
hoc.
Okay.
Ad hoc.
okay.
And then
I'm
when,
with you.
when this committee...
Non-proton.
Oh, okay, I'll keep going for now. This, and as was said, the committee would consist of myself, Councilman Regan, Councilman Vasanella, representing the 5th Ward, Councilman Wright, representing the 4th Ward. The other resolution authorize Township Manager to pay Hamilton Street Business and Community Corporation and/or Hamilton Street Special Improvement District bills. That's presented to the Township Council for adoption. So due to various reasons, we're restructuring the Hamilton Street Business District Board. And number two, since it was basically dissolved, this authorizes the manager to pay certain bills for Hamilton Street Business and Community Corporation. And then on the first part, as Mr. Ranone, the ad hoc committee will make a recommendation to council on the new structure for Hamilton Street Business and Community, if any. And then the council will vote on the new structure, and if it needs to be populated, the council will populate it with people at that point. Okay, so there could either be a request to split the two or a motion for both resolutions or discussion.
Motion for both resolutions.
Okay. And second?
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on both items of 17, Resolution 13-547 and 13-548, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. Item 18, old business, which is usually nominations for various boards and commissions. Are there any of that? Yes, Councilman Wright?
Next time, January.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You can go right ahead.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? Okay, so then we go to, that was actually old business, item 18, executive session. And as earlier, there's only a couple times we go into executive session, which is a private meeting, and that's for items such as personnel discussion, litigation, attorney-client privilege. When the subject of those executive sessions no longer needs to be made private, the minutes of those meetings will be made public. So now we have Resolution 13-545, which is item 19 on our agenda, to authorize an executive session regarding contract negotiation updates. Is there a motion for the resolution for executive session?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the resolution for executive session.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. We're going to go into executive session. When we're done with executive session, there will be only two items of business. Number one, we will vote to come out of executive session. And number two, we will vote to adjourn. So no substantive issues will be done by the council at this time. So we're going to stop our filming now. And from all of us, happy Thanksgiving. And happy Hanukkah also. Thank you.